Hey, welcome back to Sales Remastered. This episode is all about mindset. Not only mindset, but how do you excel on your sales floor? How do you climb the charts to the sales floor? How do you get the recognition that you see the top sales agents in your company get, whether nationwide or just within your sales branch or department, when they're walking up and they're receiving the awards, or they're getting shout outs from the owner of the company, your sales manager, the executives, they're getting the free paid trip to Cancun, or they're getting the $10,000 bonus, that crowd. How do you get there? How do you get there if you're new to the industry, or you're new to the company, or you're starting off with zero of a pipeline, you have no clients? How do you expedite your journey to reach that level? And that's what I'm going to cover here today on this episode. Number one is, if you're walking into a new sales floor, whether you have experience in that industry or not, you're still within a new surrounding. Your atmosphere has changed. You're awkwardly uncomfortable because you're not yet used to the process, right? And so every sales organization, every successful business that earns your time to hustle for them and to put in your time, your effort, your grind, your hustle to generate new sales for that organization should respect a process, a sales process. And that process is just basically a sequence of events that brings the lead prospect to you. You then take that prospect and you throw it through a series of filters. Those filters are going to identify if they can move to the next phase or the next stage in the conveyor belt or that process. Whether that next stage is working up a proposal, or that next stage is being transferred to an account manager to solidify the invoice or collect on the invoice. Whatever that process is, there has to be a set process. And going into a sales floor, you may not necessarily know what that process is. You might have an idea what that process is from your previous employment, but that all changes. With every single sales organization, they have a different process that complements their operations and complements their strengths, right? And so when you go into a new atmosphere, you have to understand that these agents who are usually at the top, very rarely do you get a newer agent at the top, but it does happen. And it happens to those who can easily adapt. But more importantly, those who have taken the time to study their game and really understand the dynamics of selling, because then all they have to do is just blend it in with the process that's in place. Do not fight the process, but just understand the rhythm of that process and kind of like jump rope, jump in at the right time, but keep up with the rhythm and keep up with that momentum. And I think that the challenge with going into a new sales floor, of course, if you're watching this video, the chances are that you want to take your game up to the next level. So naturally, you'd want to also get the recognition. You'd want to be the top 3 of your sales floor in the company, or your sales department, or your state, or your division, whatever the situation may be. You want to climb the rank. You want to not only show yourself that you deserve it and that you put in the time for it, but you also want to get the acknowledgement, whether it be for promotion, for bonus, for incentives, for income, for recognition, whatever the reason may be, you want to get there. And so this is the fastest way to get there. Usually any sales department or sales team has what's called a KPI report. KPI is the acronym that you need to understand, because it'll help you save some time and boost your income, significantly reduce your time or grind in the process, and really focus on key factors or key actions that you need to do more of, or in some cases less of, in order to reach success in that process. And KPI it stands for Key Performance Indicators. Again, KPI, Key Performance Indicators. And in case you've never heard of that before, essentially what that is that your executive management team or any business has a measurement. Usually this is in a form of an Excel spreadsheet. And what they do is they'll measure every sequence of event that usually goes through the sales process for any sales agent. And so a key performance indicator could be how many leads were converted to a pitch, or how many leads or outbound leads did you get that you converted into a call that led to a pitch, and then how many pitches did you do that led to a sale. So these are key performance indicators, because if you're taking a lot of leads but you're not working it, you're not your leads are not moving to the next sequence, which is working up a proposal, then that could be a sign that you're probably giving too much info initially, where they don't need you anymore to go to the second call because they feel that they can get a better price. And so just the smallest adjustment in that KPI report leading from the lead or the prospecting portion of your sales process, maybe you shouldn't filter as much, or maybe you shouldn't go over the price or the final numbers yet on that first call. Save up the momentum and save up the curiosity for phase two, which is the second call, which you should be your pitch call or your presentation. And when you understand what main pillars hold up your overall production to create the success that you want, you have to understand what each role plays, right? And so going back to the subject of this video, I don't want to ramble on, but how do you climb this chart? Easy. You identify who's already at the top of the chart. And it's awkward to find out who those are because they don't know you. Those individuals who are at the top of the chart, they have an aura about them. It's because they've earned the recognition, and so they're not necessarily going to talk to the new person in the room, because most of the time, to be honest with you, I'm going to share with you my experience. I didn't usually talk to a new agent or new sales representative until about 30 days in, because I understood that if you're not going to be here, if I don't know you, if your skills are not strong enough to be here on the sales floor, and I'm not going to see you in a month, then there's no reason with taking the time to invest in you and show you the tricks of the trade. But that's how they view it, and that's okay. Understand that you will do the same when you get up to that top 3 in your company. You'll recognize that you'll get a lot of attention. People will start coming up to you, asking you for favors, and it almost becomes bothersome. But at the same time, it's rewarding because it builds up your confidence. They're coming to you because you've already done it. You've already sold and got that recognition, and all they want to do is be like you. So the only way that they know how is to ask the questions. But here's a better way. So you identify the names that are usually within the top 5 to 10% of your sales floor or your sales organization, and then you start to network with those individuals. Don't follow anyone else. Don't follow the friend who referred you to the job if your friend is in the middle of that KPI chart, or worse yet, even at the lower end. Don't think that because the person next to you has been doing it for 15 plus years that they know what they're talking about, and that you should follow and do everything that they do, because that will naturally give you the experience you need to excel in your area. What will help you reach success faster is if you simply don't reinvent the wheel and just mimic the actions that are already working. Similar to watching Sales Remastered, I'm showing you the actions, I'm showing you the techniques that work, not only from personal experience, but I also see it time and time again. Any sales atmosphere, any sales floor that I've ever joined or worked on, the science is the same, the formula is the same. It does not matter what service, what product, what price, what industry you work in. There is always going to be the top 5 to 10% of any sales room. And if you can understand how to network with them, with those top players, then you'll naturally be able to gravitate and associate yourself with that crowd. And that's exactly the crowd you want to be. And so the question might be, well, Daniel, how do I not invade the top producers' space and come off where they'd be more likely to comply and help me? Well, the first way is to bring value. Value meaning that I'm not saying go buy them coffee or anything. You can if you want to, but the next time that they get recognition on the floor, when all the congrats have gone down, maybe the day after, if you have a monthly sales rally or a weekly sales rally, just shoot them over a quick email, or when you're walking by and you see them walk into the break room and you guys are crossing paths, give them a shout out and say, hey man, I definitely acknowledge the success you have here. I talked to my manager, said great things about you, and one day you're gonna know my name, and just walk away. And I think that in itself will put you in a different, it will anchor a different perception of you. Basically telling that top producer that you're going to be a threat. You're a hustler, and you're going to make sure that you do the actions that take place. And so you want that first impression. You don't want your first impression to be, hey man, can I sit with you for a half an hour and follow everything you do and ask you 1,000 questions in your busy day? They're going to be a little bit more resilient to that, or they're going to resist that. So I would say the fastest way to grow to the top of these charts is simply follow those and mimic those who are who are already doing it. And if you can't approach them, maybe you're an introvert, or you're shy, or it's an awkward position, or maybe they're not even on the same sales floor, network with your own manager. Your manager is more motivated for you to succeed than you are, because you represent that manager's team, or you represent that manager's management. And so if you ask your manager and say, hey, you know what, I'm noticing these top names as top 3 or top 5 in the company, what do you think that they do? What's their secret? And they'll be more than happy to tell you, and you want to absorb it more so than you would absorb some of the advice that they give you, especially if your sales manager hasn't sold for a couple years because they were promoted 5 years ago, and the market has just changed in that time. So tactics and techniques that work for them 5+ years ago may not work today because the market just simply does not allow it. And so you need to identify where you're spending your time, identify who you're following, identify if that person you're following is actually doing it, if they're taking the actions, if they're being recognized. And if they're not, I'm not saying don't be friends with them, but don't use them as the example to get that recognition and climb those charts. So that's it for this episode. I hope that it's helpful, and I hope that you're able to use the tidbits and pieces of information within this episode to excel and grow your career and help you get to that next tier level. Have a great day.